new mother. I really couldn't afford much. There were these low rental units just off 22nd Street. The owner of this building was basically a slumlord. I got to give him just some credit, though. He did attempt to renovate, and he evicted all the other problematic tenants. And the building manager was just being more picky about who they let in the building. And so that was why the apartment building was half empty when I moved in there with my 3-year-old. We got to know the neighbors real quick. I met a woman. Her name was Rebecca. She told me that her previous boyfriend died from a heart attack or something not too long ago. And then she told me how his friend Jim was over there for her and how they leaned on each other during their time of mourning. So she said she moved out of her place to live with Jim in his basement suite. She wasn't much older than I was, and she was pretty, with dark curly hair, pale skin. I nodded my head and commiserated with her. It was good that they had each other, yeah. I'll agree with that. Grief was hard enough on your own. If you could find a shoulder to lean on, then, well, your burden is just that much lighter. They offered me a beer, but I declined. And that was the tenant named Rebecca. Well, I was curled up on my couch one night watching TV. And it was all well after midnight when somebody knocked on my door. My immediate thought was, who the hell would be knocking at my door at this hour? Oh, but my nosy self headed over to look in the peephole. Standing there, in the hallway, under the fluorescents, was this older guy. He was wearing a short-sleeved, colorful print shirt, khaki shorts, brown sandals. He was just some white guy with silver, messy, medium-length hair, and he had a little bit of a paunch. I opened the door, and he looked at me with these big, sad blue eyes, and he asked, "Is Rebecca home?" I furrowed my brow, and then I told him that she didn't live in this unit anymore. I told him that she moved into the unit downstairs, number 3. The expression on his face after I said that was a mix of surprise and disappointment and something else. He quickly looked at his feet, and I went to close the door, but he looked up at me, and then he said he was so thirsty. And then he asked if he could please just have a glass of water. Well, I was a bit taken aback because what a strange request. But I'm a helpful person, so I said, sure, I'll get you one, but stay right there. And I shut the door, and I locked it. And then I headed to the kitchen. I ran a cold tap, so it would be nice and cold for him, and I put it in a mug, and I unlocked the door, and I opened it, and as I was handing him the water, I got this really strong gut feeling to not touch his skin. I carefully avoided his fingers, and he took a few sips, and then he handed me the mug back. Well, I didn't know why, but I suddenly felt alarmed. Danger! I felt danger! I didn't let his hand touch mine. I took it. I took the cup, and I closed the door quickly. My heart was speeding up very quickly. The hallway felt chilly, and my fingertips felt cold, and I peeked into the peek hole and no one was even there. I was uncomfortable for the rest of the night. Like, why did I tell him where Rebecca lived? Maybe I shouldn't have done that. I felt like I did something really wrong. It was as if I gave a permission of some kind, or I just allowed something to happen. Honestly, I don't remember if these things happened before or after that night, but the lights would burn out, especially in the dining room. It was frequent enough that, well, I asked the management to check the electrical. They told me that everything was good and that there was nothing broken or loose in the wiring. I ended up just leaving the dining room dark. My boyfriend was over one night, and the three of us were watching TV together in the living room, and my boyfriend got up to make himself a sandwich. And there was this old wooden broom divider between the two rooms, and we could see him at the counter fixing a snack, and we had our own on the coffee table, and my boyfriend had to walk around the divider through the dark dining room area to get to the kitchen. My 3-year-old suddenly says out of nowhere, "Mommy, why is that man staring at us?" I asked him, "What man? Where? Where do you see a man?" And my 3-year-old pointed to the dark dining room area. I looked, but of course, no one was there. I was so creeped out. But then I asked, "Well, what does he look like?" "He has big fat eyes," said my child, and his hair was like this. And then my child showed me with his little hands how the man's hair stuck out, and then made wavy fingers. I didn't want to scare my baby, and so I pretended that whatever he said, it didn't scare me. My boyfriend, on the other hand, was still in the kitchen, and he paused mid-slice after he heard that. And then my 3-year-old said, "He's your friend who shuts off the lights." I shuddered. I wrapped my child up in the blankets, and my boyfriend came over to join us. I stayed up that whole night, just watching over the both of them. So creepy.